Okay, welcome back everyone to Strange Planet Podcast. And for this week, as many of you already know, earlier this week was the vice president debate between Vance and Walz. And before I even give my take on it, I guess, what did you guys think about the past debate here?
Well, I mean, I'll be brief. I really didn't get to see the whole thing, so I saw a bunch of highlights.
Okay.
I thought Vance wasn't as bad as Trump, but he parroted a lot of what Trump said, and I even saw a moment where they had to cut his mic off because he just wouldn't shut the fuck up. So
Surprise, surprise.
that seemed par for the course.
Yep.
And Waltz, I thought he did pretty good. You know, from the things he had to say. I mean, he could have been a little bit better in certain areas, but for overall, a good job.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, so the bar was a little bit higher for Vance than it was for Trump. Like, Trump just had to show up and not look stupid, which he failed. And Vance, you have to remember, is an Ivy League educated lawyer. He went to Yale for law school. And so the bar for him was pretty high. And, you know, he delivered, polished and pre-canned responses to a lot of things, but he also didn't answer a lot of questions when asked directly. He avoided a lot of issues, and he kind of pivoted to, the Trump talking points with respect to immigration. Waltz, on the other hand, the bar wasn't as high for him as it maybe was for Kamala, because Waltz is not an Ivy League educated lawyer. But I think what Waltz did really well is he effectively communicated to common people.
Yep.
He broke things down really well, and he just spoke with a very civil tone. Now, actually, the entire debate relative to the debate we saw, a month or so ago between Kamala and Trump, this debate was very tame. You found the candidates agreeing with each other.
Yep, that's true.
Part of the time, and actually like listening to what the other was saying and responding to it, like saying, "Okay, I agree with that, but I disagree here." This was more of a policy-oriented debate, and I think both candidates did reasonably well. If you liked Vance, which I don't see how you really can, but if you liked him before, you were pretty happy with his performance. If you liked Waltz beforehand, you were pretty happy with his performance. I don't think it necessarily helps in terms of the general election, but I think that obviously Vance had to tell some lies in order to get through the debate. And he had, as I said before, a lot of questions, like, did Trump lose the 2020 election?
Right. I was going to say that.
Yeah, they did. That question like to play.
Waltz's response was perfect. He said that was a damning non-answer. And it is pretty damning because, how can you not acknowledge? I mean, obviously his boss doesn't want him to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
But when asked straight up, how could you not answer whether, someone won an election or not?
Right.
It still baffles me.
Yep.
But overall, it was generally a good debate, a good policy-oriented debate. We'd like to see some more of those, but Trump is incapable of doing that, which is why he's not appearing at another debate.
Yep. He's bitching out on it.
Yep.
I hear you there. And I guess my opinion on the whole matter is relatively similar to yours. But the one thing I will say that is also interesting is, once again, you see, it's like just common with the whole Trumpism kind of thing here with the lying and the consistency of the lying. Because there was a number of times that Vance came out with a straight up lie. You know what I mean? And then even the moderator was just kind of like, well, you didn't really answer the question. So she'd ask it again. And then he would just paraphrase what he just previously said, still
Yeah.
not answering the question. And then it seemed after like, like 2 or 3 times of this, I mean, they can only have so much time on certain, topics. So then they had to just keep moving. So it was like a bullet dodged in that corner. So the only take I would say, I think both candidates, like you said, it was a lot more professional looking, especially compared to the last one. Whereas, I mean, Kabbalah was 100% professional, but
Yeah, it,
we all
it
know the
looked
other
more
one's a
like a
little baby.
traditional debate between political candidates running for a serious office.
Right, exactly. And where it looks like, this is a serious matter and they're not making it look like it's something out of Cartoon Network, you know, you know what I mean? But it was just like the only other thing I guess I would say on top of all this is I would say just from viewing and from what you had said about even the Ivy League there with Vance, is that I think I was going to originally say that Vance might be a little bit better at a debater than Waltz was. But at the same time, I don't think so. Just the only thing I would have wanted Waltz to do a little bit more was call out those bullshit lies and keep calling them out until there's a definitive answer there. You know what I mean? Because there was a couple of times I think he let a few things slip through the cracks, and he could have been like, "Whoa, whoa, wait, that's not true." You know what I mean? Or wait, what are you talking about? That's not the case. That's false information
Yeah,
right there. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
it's really tough to do that because the rate at which he spews lies is pretty high. So
Right. You got to keep
you
Yeah,
track of them all.
you got to try to get a word in edgewise. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
it's definitely difficult. So
one of
I'll give him a pass there.
But
one of the
right, right.
things
I'm
that
not demeaning him, but I'm just saying maybe a little more crack of the whip on some of that. You know what I mean? Might have been a little bit more effective, but overall, there's no doubt he had the upper end of the stick. I think. You know what I mean? But Mark,
yeah.
you were going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that pointed out to me like glaringly was the fact that Vance kept going back to the border, the immigration and everything,
Which
and
is what Trump did.
that's the cudgel that they made to debate on. It's like
Mm-hmm.
we had something in place to where it wouldn't have been an issue, and they said no, 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 we don't want that because Trump wants to use that as a cudgel to beat them over the head with.
Right,
So,
right.
I mean, it's just like you created the problem that we were going to fix, but you had your boys say no, we're not going to do that.
Right. And it's funny you bring that up because that was one of the few times that I felt like Waltz did step up because there was a point I think he spoke out of turn, but luckily the mic wasn't off, so you still heard it. But he
Yeah,
said, well, why didn't you pass the bill? Why didn't you pass the bill? Like he said that a few times, and I was like, all right, that's what we need. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Because like there
Yeah,
was
no,
technically a
he said,
solution there.
yeah, he said Kamala will sign the bill.
Right, right. And they
Right.
just won't do it. And it was made by
Um,
Republicans too. Like,
right.
yeah. No, Republicans were
Another
part of it.
another time that Waltz came back at him was, with respect to uh JD Vance trying to claim that Trump saved Obamacare.
Yep, yep.
And so he outlined how Trump tried to destroy Obamacare this first day in office.
He tried
Didn't
And
over
do it.
60 times
subsequently,
to get
over
it
and
like
over
removed.
again, he tried. And he pointed out that McCain, uh, you know, gave his famous thumbs down.
Yeah, the deciding vote.
And it's just, but it's just really hard to keep coming back at something that is obviously false. Like Trump helped Obamacare out of necessity. It wasn't because he wanted to. He wanted to destroy everything that Obama accomplished.
Basically.
But
Yeah,
he didn't have the votes to do it. And so rather than continuing something futile, which he's doing now in terms of his 2020 election loss,
Mhm.
he decided at that point, well, I'll just let them, the health department run the government.
Right?
That's so he wants to try to claim that he saved Obamacare. No, it
No,
was
that's
it
not
was
even
working. It
remotely
was
true.
working before that. It is continuing to work under Biden. It will continue to work in the future.
Right.
And actually, the Supreme Court justices almost got rid of Obamacare, or at least a portion of it, the individual mandate. They upheld it, not as a power necessarily under the Commerce Clause, but they held it. They upheld it under the taxation power of Congress, saying that, well, it's a tax, and that was like something that's like politically, you know, people don't want to hear that they're being taxed.
Right.
So, it's probably a nod from the Supreme Court, like, yeah, this is probably okay, but we're gonna try to frame it as something that's not politically good for the Democrats. But you know
Right.
what? People like the law. They like, when JD Vance was asked about, okay, well, your boss said that there were concepts of a plan, and you sort of elaborated on that, but how do you pay for people with pre-existing conditions if you get rid of Obamacare's provision for pre-existing conditions? And he didn't have an answer to that.
Of course, because there isn't one, you know.
He also tried to say that, housing prices, the increase in housing prices were due to illegal immigration. And he failed to answer how that was possible.
Yep. That was one of the many times the
He
moderator had to
failed to
keep checking.
articulate, but, most of the people who are going to vote for Trump anyway, they don't care. They don't want to hear. They just like to hear that immigrants are causing all their problems.
Basically, yeah.
It's just, anything that explains their own misery. And they can blame someone else.
It's definitely a lot of fear mongering coming out of the right.
Oh, that's
the only way they get things done is to get people scared into doing it.
I know, and times are hard. Things are tough. With inflation, not just inflation, but inflationary pricing, which is due to corporate greed.
Yep.
Rent's not going up. Rent's not going down.
So really, like, if you look at the inflation numbers, inflation's way down since the beginning of Biden's term. It's back to like normal levels of inflation, but the prices are coming down. You know why? It's for greed.
Exactly.
And you see all these sales all the time now. Sales on Amazon, sales on different outlets. Those sales are just like capitulating to the fact that people don't have the money to buy the products that they're selling, so they're actually reducing the price to like regular prices,
right? The way it was originally.
Yeah, and so if you want prices to be reasonable all the time, you have to vote for Democrats, because
basically
they will keep the ultra wealthy in check through fair taxation that makes them pay their fair share.
Exactly.
Republicans aren't willing to do that. They're going to pass another tax cut that favors the wealthy. They're going to pass a tax cut for the middle class as well. But like last time, they're going to sunset. Yeah, it's smaller than what they give away to the wealthy, but it's something, and that something helps people. And they'll say, "Oh, well,
it's a bone. It's literally a bone to shut people up while they, sit in the background and."
No, this is what Republicans do. They say, "Oh, we're going to pass tax cuts for everyone because we're going to pass tax cuts for the job creators, right? And we're going to pass tax cuts for the middle class." Now, what they do is for the ultra wealthy, they keep those tax cuts permanent. But in the bill, they also provide a sunset provision, which says that, oh, well, by the time the next president comes in, these tax cuts for the middle class go away. And so if we get elected again, we Republicans get elected again, we'll just pass another tax cut. And Democrats in Congress, even if we don't have the House, will have to pass it. Otherwise, we'll say, oh, look, those Democrats are responsible for your higher taxes. They're not,
make them look like the enemy.
Cuts. Now, if Democrats are in office, then they won't pass them. They'll just say, oh, well, look, taxes raised under Democrats. So this is the game they play, and most people aren't, wise to it.
Right, right.
And
No,
and
you're
it's
right.
it gets into the weeds of like legislation, and people don't have time for that. They just say, you know what, my taxes are up, and it's a hard thing to explain to people, but it needs to be explained to
Yeah,
as
like
many
on
people
the
as possible.
regular too, because I don't think they like a lot of people get it. And I feel like the more we bring it up and the more you talk about it, eventually it'll, seep through. But
Maybe, maybe not.
yeah,
There's just so much noise in politics now, and it's so hard to get a message through to people that are sort of on the fence.
especially with
I
all the
really don't
social
get
media
undecided
shit.
voters, though. Like
Me neither.
most people have, values that are fully ingrained, whether they're Republican values, whatever that means now, in terms of valuing bullying other people,
Right? Yeah,
valuing
dictatorship.
bigotry, valuing blaming other people for their own problems, or Democrats valuing just being decent people and valuing
Working class
wealthy
people.
paying their fair share, valuing diversity. Like I feel like most people have their values in line. I don't understand people who are still undecided. Like, what are their values?
Yeah, I don't get it. And then make it and put it in layman's terms, even if you knew nothing about this election coming up. We have Donald Trump,
Yeah,
who's
I
a
mean,
convicted felon, and you have Kamala Harris, who's a prosecutor. I don't think the decision should be that hard. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean? You let them talk and he bullshits out of his ass, you know what I mean? And people believe it. And that's part of what the problem is. But real quick, I want to spin this back to the debate real quick. There's one other thing, actually, two other things that I kind of wanted to bring up. And the first thing was, I don't know if I had something crazy in my ear, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I could have swore at some point during that debate, Vance literally said out loud something about him not knowing that what he was saying was going to be fact checked. Did I hear that
okay.
correct?
So what he took issue with was so before the debate, in order to do the debate, the Trump campaign and Vance demanded that the moderators not be allowed to fact check candidates in
Wow.
time. So
That don't
when it
say
came
something right
to
there.
when it came to one of the questions, one of the moderators said something that could be interpreted as fact checking. And so he took issue with that as part of the rules.
He
And
bitched
saying,
about it like a little fucking pussy.
right. But it's like, dude, you fucking the bigger point is you fucking lied.
Yep. Like a
Like,
majority of that debate too.
and you were disproven and shown to be a liar.
Right?
And so instead of, but I mean, he just like complained about, oh, this fact checking me. Yeah, you're a fucking liar.
That's why we need the
Start
fact
doing
checkers.
fact
Yeah. Like,
Like, I'm sorry, but like, we have to have a debate about facts, not about like made up shit. Like,
like his healthcare bill.
like you shouldn't just be allowed. And like, I'm not going to participate in the debate unless I can lie throughout
Right?
the whole debate. Like, that's just stupid.
Is the dumbest thing I ever heard. I just wanted to bring that up. And another thing I wanted to bring up, which you didn't see, and it was not Kamala's doing, that's for sure, was it was good to see and a little refreshing because as much as a lying hypocrite and an asshole that Vance really is, at the beginning, but even at the end of the debate, it was nice to see them not only shake hands, but also the wives came out and then they greeted each other and they looked like they had a little small talk there. You know what I mean? But I felt like that was like kind of the way it used to be before Trump.
Yeah.
You
I
know what I
mean,
mean?
well, if you remember, Kamala went over to Trump and shook his hand.
Yeah, and then he just
He
ran
made
off
the
the stage
power
after the
move.
debate. Like he didn't
Yeah.
even stick around.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure. Oh, sure. Because he got his ass handed.
basically.
He was frustrated at that point. I'll be surprised. I'm surprised he shook her hand too.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean,
I guess he was on the
over and got into his space.
yeah, and he was on the hot seat. So had she waited halfway and waited for him to come the other halfway, it wouldn't happen.
Right, but I feel
She
like
was
it was
smart
kind
enough.
of
She went
important,
halfway, stuck the hand out, and then went the other half of the way.
right?
Fuck, I have to shake her hand.
Like, yeah, you're gonna look like a dumbass if you don't take my hand.
Oh yeah.
Basically. But like I felt like it was important to see that, even for the VP, as much as it should have been for the presidential one too. Because like there's a lot of demonizing going on, you know what I mean? But like you don't have to agree wholly on either side, you know what I mean? But like they
Yeah.
still need to understand that regardless to where you stand, we all are Americans, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. We're
Okay,
going to
okay.
disagree on stuff. You know what I mean?
I mean, sure, we're all Americans, but one side is trying to steal elections.
Correct. That's where I was
They
going.
are
But go on.
trying to steal elections. They
Yep.
deny that a previous president lost the election. They support a president who actively tried to overturn an election.
Overturn. Yep.
There are things that
Different, very different.
are very they're worth taking issue over, and it's just like,
Frustrating.
you know, I'm not with this whole like kumbaya, like, oh,
No, me
Republicans
neither.
no,
Yeah,
they're
me neither.
they're
Not in the
batshit
slightest.
crazy, and they need to be told so.
And they need
do.
to be stopped. Yeah, like this
They
needs
need to be
end.
told they're batshit crazy. They're not functioning in reality. They're, you know, going off of made up facts about
Yeah, for
Haitian
real.
immigrants eating cats and dogs. Like, when your candidate is complaining about made up bullshit that JD Vance admitted was a made up story
Yep.
in an interview with CNN's Dana Bash, like, he admitted that it was a made up story. So yeah, when you're supporting a candidate that does that, I'm sorry, but it's not a kumbaya moment.
No,
Like,
no,
you
of
need to
course
be
not.
told that you're wrong.
100%. Yeah, because you have the Democrats that are trying to save and keep democracy alive. And basically, you have the Republicans under Trump now, which basically want to run this like a dictatorship.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So, like, that's one of the fundamental differences that's really riding on this election coming up in basically about a month. You know what I mean? So, like, people, it's like you said before, that's why I don't understand about undecided voters at this point. Because, like, even just with those little tidbits of information, you know what I mean? Like, it couldn't be more clear which is the best and safest option here.
Here,
You know what I mean?
here's my question: who is undecided? I mean,
Apparently, there's a bunch. Yeah,
yeah, but like,
fuck if I know, but
it can't be a huge amount. I mean, this is
No,
ridiculous.
it's not a huge amount. Most people that are going to vote in the election
already know. Yeah,
decided. But there are,
So
you know,
I'm
the margins of victory in those swing states are so small that undecided voters could make a difference, and they will make a difference when they
right.
I'm assuming the undecided voters are a lot of unregistered voters.
No. They're voters who are registered and are going to vote, but they just don't know who they're voting for.
Right, right. And like I would say, if I ever met someone that was undecided, not only would I play them this episode, but it's also just
Yeah, but
you gotta just take it as it is. You can't listen.
Here's
to
my
like what
thing,
Trump
though.
says.
I think a lot of people who don't say who they want to vote for are not voting for Trump because they're probably in an area where it's just like, you vote for Trump or I come over your house and bonk you over the head. You know, it feels like, you know, with the Republican Party, especially this Donald Trump Republican Party, there's a lot of fear mongering, and it's not just fear mongering; it's actual like almost assault or rioting to the point that like he will rile them up to do whatever he wants to do, and they've shown pretty much that they'll do almost anything he wants them to do.
Yeah, they're like puppets at this point.
Yeah, more or less. And the only reason why they were shooting,
too.
the only reason why they weren't shooting up the place in January 6th is because there were metal detectors for people coming through, and they're like, "Yo, people are coming through with guns." Trump was like, "Yeah, God, let them." And they're like, "No, Mr. President, we're not going to do that." So that's, you know, one of the biggest differences, that there wasn't gunfire at that because they weren't allowed to bring any, which is, you know, par for the course, I would hope.
Well, some of them did have firearms.
Yeah, I think some of them were armed, believe it or not, too. Yeah.
Yeah, but they were supposedly they weren't allowed to bring that in with them. Like they were getting people that
Well,
were
they
coming
weren't
out.
supposed to be
They
there
weren't
in the first
allowed
place.
in there in the first.
Yeah,
place.
they shouldn't have been in.
They weren't allowed on the Senate floor.
Yeah, they had no.
No,
reason.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying in there, like in there. I'm talking about for the
office. They weren't allowed in there.
speech that Trump had. for the speech that Trump had before that,
Right, there were
bringing people in with metal detectors, and then it's just like, yeah, no, people were having guns. He was like, let them through, because he wanted them to be armed to go down to the fucking Capitol and kill people. Though they were like, no, we're not going to do that. I think they, it limited the amount of firearms people actually had.
Sure, but people came ready with explosives and other
it's
tiki torches and
I mean that
but it was a
to
depressing
me
day.
no, there were no tiki torches. That was Charlotte.
Right.
Yeah. To me that's not the Republican Party. That is the Trump Party. Because
that's arguable because they allow it.
Well, that's why you saw not only Liz Cheney endorse Kamala Harris, but also Dick Cheney.
Cheney,
endorsement.
Giuliani's daughter apparently just endorsed it too, and said
but who was
insane.
Who was who was the president nomination before Trump? Who was going to be Mitt Romney? He's voting for fucking Kamala Harris, from what I understand.
Is he? I mean, I know he said he wasn't voting for Trump, and he also.
Who's he going to vote for? Because no one else left.
Yeah, it's only two parties.
I don't know that he's come out and said that, endorsed Kamala Harris, but
he just said not Trump.
The standard, the people that it's not the same Republican Party. The people that
no, they're not.
They took over it. Is what happened.
They made Romney their standard bearer in 2012. It's not the same party.
No, it's not.
No, it's been converted. Yeah.
They made before that in 2008. They made their standard bearer John McCain. Trump shit on John McCain.
Yep.
And the Republican Party just stands for it.
And it's true. To back your theory up right there. Well, not theory. To back your reality up right there is just the RNC, that convention alone. It was just all filled with Trump suck-ups. You know what I mean? There was no previous. No Bush, no Cheney, you know what I mean? Nobody, like, as we call the Republican Classic, was there.
Yeah.
It was just all members of the cult, if you think about it. So that basically the cult has become the party at this point.
It's also funny.
It really has.
I don't know if you could dig it up, but there is an interview of Trump well before he was going to become president, before the nomination, before he said he was going to go through it. Someone had asked him, well, would you ever become president? He's like, I'm not sure. But if I would, I'd be a Republican because they're stupid.
Yeah, they'll believe anything.
Hold on. I don't know that quote has been verified.
I'm not sure if it's 100% verified, but I have read that before.
No,
I have read it, but it's also a meme.
Come out of his mouth
in the
video. I mean, whether it's somebody fucking with the video, I don't know or not.
I don't know. That should definitely be fact checked. Hold on.
Well, and another thing while you're doing that would add to what Mark just said was I saw another interview. This was back in like the mid 90s, and Trump was a Democrat then, believe it or not. And they were asking him, political questions. I don't know why, because he's a fucking idiot, realistically. Yeah. But he was saying that he believed, especially at that time, that not only does the economy, but the country itself runs a lot smoother under the Democrats. He says that they seem to understand not only fairness, but they actually, I couldn't believe these words were coming out of his mouth, put it that way. And this was long before AI was a thing, you know what I mean? So I'm nearly positive that interview.
Okay, so that quote by Trump was fact checked by Snopes and Political Fact, and they labeled it as false.
Did they really? All right, well, that's good to know. All right, for that at least. But yeah, well, let's see. But that's a proof right there that like people, when you're gathering and searching for your information, you cannot go to social media for any of it because they're only going to tell you whatever you want to hear.
Well, I mean, you have to verify. You have to verify. The information you receive.
Yeah, but like if you're looking at Twitter for it, it's not a good.
There's incentive on both sides to sort of exaggerate and lie about certain things in order to get a point across. I think the difference is that Democrats care if facts that they're saying are true or not.
Right.
Republicans don't. They just don't. They don't care. Like
they win.
Kellyanne Conway said, there's facts and then alternative facts.
Yeah.
Oh Christ.
False facts. You want to believe
alternative facts, and they'll live in their alternative world. And anything that goes against what they want to be true is false.
Right.
So
But that's crazy. Like that's insanity. That's fictional thinking. You know what I mean? Like that's just basically creating more puppets. You know what I mean? Like we're also talking about a guy here that literally says on the first day, if he wins, is the only day he'll be a dictator. You know, people, you really believe that shit? Like,
yeah, I mean,
come on.
I don't like. He says he was joking about that. Maybe he was. Maybe
I
he
don't
wasn't.
believe that shit.
No,
He'll
well, I
abuse whatever
mean,
power he can. That guy, he's
no,
a scumbag.
I don't. I don't think that his intent was to say I'm going to be a dictator. I think his intent was to say that I'm going to get revenge on his political opponents who Trump thinks are trying to put him in prison. When the reality is that Trump violated the law and on numerous occasions. That's why he has 90 something indictments.
Right?
And, you know, the law has to be carried out. We have to uphold the rule of law. And that's not being done politically, it's being done because we need our democracy.
Right. That's what it's there for. You know what I mean? You break the law, there's consequences. It's not really news here, you know? Unbelievable. Mark, I believe you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I mean, it's just he may not he may have been jokingly saying like, "Oh yeah, I'll be a dictator the first day," really meaning like, "I'll be a dictator the whole time I'm there." And he's outright said that he's going to come after his, political opponents and get revenge on all the comedians who said stuff about him and the reporters who reported stuff about him and all the whistleblowers who blew whistles at him and on and on and on and on and on. He talks like he's a mobster out for revenge
Wannabe
and
mobster.
yeah, obviously, but like it's I just honestly I just can't wait for this all to be over, this to be in our rear view, and Trump, being taken away in cuffs for one of the 92 indictments that he's guilty of. And I mean, he's not committed, he's not officially guilty, innocent until proven guilty, but
I mean,
we all know he's guilty. It's just, it's the back and forth of, oh, I'm not guilty, but we have all this, oh, I'm not guilty. It's, delay and defend and deflect and
yeah.
Well, there's a difference between being found legally guilty or liable in civil court and being factually guilty. Like someone who actually goes and murders someone is factually guilty of the crime. Whether or not he's legally guilty depends on if you can prove it to a jury and if the jury agrees.
That's very true too.
I mean, it's almost akin, and I hate to say this, it's almost akin to the whole OJ thing, where we watched live on TV. Well, someone in a white Bronco was doing a chase, and then the OJ, trial started. This wasn't like that. This was a little more specific. We watched the ex-president get on a stage, rile up his crowd with all his little, fuddy-duddies, and, Steve Bannon in the background getting them friggin' amped up, where they're all bloodthirsty and everything. Like, let's go kill the people in the cart. Oh, and they go over there and rally. And
chaos.
I mean, it's funny to look a horse in his face and say giraffe.
Right? That's kind of where we're at. Almost.
That's where we're at, and it's really scary. These are the people that are in charge of our lives.
And the other thing I would say, as far as his comment about the dictatorship, is that's not, even if he was kidding, that's not a joking matter.
That's not something you play around
there's
with.
just things you don't say.
Especially after he's tested the Constitution numerous times.
Exactly my point. That's why I feel like I wouldn't put it over his head that he would try that, not just the first day, but as long as he can get away with it. And with the way the Supreme Court's been acting lately, they'll just look the other way. You know what I mean? Because that's the same team for them. So I feel like they'll be even more lenient to let him get away with more shit. So pretty much that's what it ultimately could be, whether we liked it or not. God forbid he were to win. You know what I mean? So these are things that I feel like that shouldn't be as overlooked as they are. You know?
They are.
Yeah, regardless to whether he was kidding or not. But yeah, like that's just not funny, in my opinion. Yeah, like it's just fucking stupid, really. And I feel like if a candidate did this 30, 40, 50 years ago, he wouldn't even been considered right now. You know what I mean? But times have changed, I guess, clearly. And this is where we're at. You know what I mean? As crazy as it sounds.
It's like, in closing, for me, it's like the game of Clue, where you've seen the middle, and all the evidence proves to what you've already seen in the middle,
Right.
in the little envelope, and yet other people are swearing it's not.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's just like, I can pull the ticket. It shows it right here. It's like, oh, no.
Nope. Let's challenge it, even though that's the truth. You know what I mean? Like it's.
And I don't know. Is it more reasonable to believe a truth that has the potential to ruin people's lives, or is it more, feasible to believe the lie, or vice versa? You know what I mean? Where it's just like,
the reality
you believe
is
the truth that, it's like, oh, well, they did all that, and all that I was believing in is bullshit. Or you believe the lie to continue believing what you were believing before. Like, yeah, no, everything's great and wonderful. Yeah, we're doing a great job because, Trump's going to clean the swamp.
right. I mean, that's their basis, though. If you think about it, it's like, let's believe a bunch of lies than the inconvenient truth. You know what I mean? Because that's the reality there. If he keeps saying that it's not true, you know what I mean? People are going to believe that if he keeps it on, the repetition of it, regardless to the facts of the matter at hand, that he's guilty of these things.
It's almost getting to the point where the facts almost won't matter.
That's a scary story.
With the facts. You can show up with a recorded video with, 4K and him clearly saying, I did this. People are like, innocent. He didn't do it.
Yeah, like that's a crazy thought right there.
It is a crazy thought. Yeah, but like, we're at that precipice of idiocracy where it's just like, where's the brains? Where's the morals? Where's the reality in all this? Everyone just seems to be like, I'm just living in fantasy island.
Yeah, like it's destroying a lot. You know what I mean? The reputation of the media and everything too. And these are the first steps to do this.
All it's really doing is hurting the middle class and the lower class. Yeah. Everything they're doing, because it's raising rates for everything, and corporations are all greedy fucks, no matter who you are. So they're going to keep their prices high until somebody legal comes along and say, yeah, no, your prices are way too high. You need to lower them.
And nothing's there to stop them, So
I mean, and don't give me the whole supply and demand garbage, because there's way too much stuff in this world for the demand to be so high and prices to be so high. I just can't. I can't. I'm tired of greed. I'm so tired of it.
And all right, everyone, that's all we have for this week's episode of Strange Planet Podcast. Know that there will be new episodes on YouTube every Friday. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we will see you next week. Thanks for watching. Peace.